please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent and horrifying news story. And I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
Games Calling is brought to you by SeatGeek. Use promo code Games Calling for $20 off your first order. And About the Fans. Use promo code CCI for 50% off your entire order.
What is going on, Canes fam? I am Matty Ice. He is Tony. And Tony, we are joined by a very special guest today.
Yes, we are.
Who do we have joining us today?
Mr. Data himself, Lance Roffers. What's up, Lance? How's it going, man?
Hey, it's going great. Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
Absolutely,
For
Lance.
sure.
We're really excited to have you, man. Talk some Canes football. Season's about to start. Obviously, we're man short tonight, guys. Caniac's unable to make it. He's got work stuff going on. Unfortunately, we'll miss him. But, we're excited to have you, Lance, and, hopefully you have a good time with us.
Yeah. Appreciate you having me on. You guys were texting with me earlier, telling me about it's not a serious show, so I'll try and fit in with that tonight.
Yeah, absolutely.
Somebody's got to be serious, though,
Yeah, well, the one that's usually more serious, I feel like, is Caniac's, and he's not
for
here.
sure.
So, yeah, so that's not a good
Inmates.
mix, but...
Inmates are running the asylum tonight.
Oh, absolutely. The first thing I kind of wanted to get into, and I randomly thought about this, before we get into Canes football or really random rankings and everything. The Canes hoop schedule actually got released. I don't know if you guys saw it. I'm excited because I think Lance, you're going to be down for the FSU game, right, in November?
Yep.
And obviously Tony will be there, and I know Caniacs is going to be there as well. So there's a basketball game on November 7th. I'm ready to go to that one, so it'll be the first one I'll be at in person in Miami. I've seen a few away games, so I'm excited for that. Going to be a good time. Hopefully, can have another good season with a deep tourney run. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, guys. I thought right off the bat we could get into our really random rankings. What do you guys think?
Let's do it.
All right, let's do it. I feel like Lance is kind of like, what did I get myself into? Just reading his face. So this edition of Really Random Rankings, we're ranking our top 5 sandwiches. I don't remember how did this come about, Tony?
I don't remember, man. It was such a long time ago that
this is from a month ago,
forever.
right?
Yeah. It's been a month, and we've had a month to make this list. It's better be a good one.
I know, for real. Even though I just made it today and we had a month to do it. I was going to read Robert's first because I think he posted his in the chat. Shout out to him. His top 5, he had Reuben number 1. He said pressed Cuban number 2, barbecue pulled pork number 3, Philly cheesesteak number 4, and French dip number 5. I thought it was pretty solid, a little basic for my taste. But Tony, why don't we get into your list first, then we can go over to Lance, man.
All right, let's do this. Number 5. It's a sleeper. I love a good BLT.
Okay.
Especially if the bacon's dolled up somehow. We got a spot down here called Sports Grill that they dip their bacon in their wing sauce and then they throw it on BLT. It's amazing. So good.
Okay.
Number 4, a good tuna salad sub or sandwich. A good, delicious tuna salad. Number 3, a good meatball sub. Also delicious. Number 4, an Italian sub. Number 2, an Italian sub, and number 1, a plain Jane PB&J. Man, can't go wrong.
Okay, I got a completely different list. I think I have
that's my snack, man. At night, hungry, Make myself a peanut butter and jelly any time of the day. Delicious.
I respect that. What about you, Lance? What's that top 5 looking like?
Yeah, no, my list is quite a bit different than Tony's, as you would expect it. I expected a little more Cuban flair there, though. Tony, you went pretty basic with PB and J as your favorite there. So
I'm a man of many surprises.
I'm a little let down that you didn't come out with something that I hadn't heard of before, but that's all right. Yeah, I mean, I'm a Midwestern guy, so a little bit different than what you guys have there. I like a turkey and Swiss. That's probably my number 5. Number 4, I like a catfish sandwich. That's something we
nice.
do around here,
Very nice.
which is pretty cool. You get like the hoagie and toast it, and like some good tartar with fried catfish. That's really good stuff. 3 is a chicken salad sandwich. I love a chicken salad sandwich. I don't like the grapes in it. Just give me actual chicken salad without, any fruit in it, and we're good. Number 2, I like a fried egg sandwich. Another thing that's, a little bit probably Midwestern. You fry up some eggs and throw it on some toast with some mayo. That's good stuff. And my number 1, is just a good old-fashioned burger. I am a burger and fries guy. I absolutely love that. So that would probably be
wrong with that.
Okay. Respect. My 5 is completely different. It's a little bit more specific because I kind of chose like sandwiches from like specific places. Yeah. So my number 5, I just said a banh mi sandwich. I love me a banh mi. I was really close to saying an LA street dog because I think a hot dog is a sandwich. I know Caniacs was fighting us on that. And I was looking forward to that debate. Maybe Lance will have a debate with us about a hot dog being a sandwich. But my number 4 was there's a Hawaiian food joint down the street from me. They have a hot kimchi butter katsu chicken sandwich, and it has like mac salad inside. Oh, that thing is so good. And then my number 3 is it's a sweet and spicy meatball sandwich from Firehouse. Really like that one. One of my favorites, one of the go-tos from like one of the chain restaurants, Yeah. My number 2 though, this is something different. It's a grilled cheese, but it actually has spaghetti in it. And it's like with like a spicy marinara. And I was like kind of skeptical of it, but oh my God, it's like you got to try it. You can't knock it until you try it. It's from this place called Burnt Crumbs in Huntington Beach, California. So if you're ever there, try it. And then the number 1, I had to go with this because I feel like it's like you can do it many different ways. I did a torta because you can do breakfast one, you can do the lunch one, different kinds of meat. Shout out to Monica's dad, my fiance, cooking them all the time. Huge fan. Carnitas, Al Pastor. I'm all about it.
Nice.
That's definitely my number 1. I had to take it number 1, man.
Very nice. Love it. Sounds delicious.
I know. I really thought about.
You got more Latin flair than I do in your.
I know. Apparently, what the hell, man? What happened there?
I don't know. Yeah.
I was so looking forward to debating Caniacs on the whole hot dog being a sandwich thing.
It's totally a sandwich. It's a piece of bread with meat.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing. So I was like doing a little bit of research, and did you know that a hot dog is legally a sandwich in California? It's like I think it's listed like in some sort of tax law or something, like dealing with like street vendors, but it's literally classified as a sandwich in California and New York as well. So only 2 states, but I thought that was super interesting. But yeah. Anyways, so Lance, I thought we could get into some Kane stuff. Usually when we have someone on, we do a fun little segment called All Hype Sounds Right. So I thought it would be something fun to do. You ready for it, man?
Yeah, let's see.
Okay. All right, Lance. So the name of the game is All Hype or Sounds Right. We're basically going to give you something, give you a question or whatever. You're going to tell us if it's all hype or if it sounds right, sounds legit to you. All right?
All right.
You got it? Okay.
I got it.
First one, Canes related. Obviously, running back depth has kind of shifted recently with the injuries to Citizen and Donald Chaney. So the first one is Henry Parrish will be the leading rusher for the Canes in terms of yards this season. All hyper sounds right.
All hype.
Oh, okay.
Really?
Who do you have as leading the team in rushing?
Oh, Knighton will lead the team in rushing.
Knighton. Okay. I respect that.
You think
Okay,
that Gaddis
next one.
offense is more fit for his style?
Yeah, I mean, neither one of them are like your type running back, where you just line up and run power over and over and let them smash between the tackles too much. I think Knighton, he's going to have enough big plays off of, some of the counters and some of the run schemes that they have that, allow him to hit a gap and make it, 40 to 60 yard runs, that kind of thing. And that'll add up over the course of the season. I think, Thad Franklin will take some of those shorter yard type runs away from both of them. And Parrish will be more kind of like the 1B to him. But, I also just really respect Knighton's talent quite a bit and think he'll lead him in rushing.
Okay. Next one I got for you. This is a combination of both sports. I'm a Canes hoop guy. That, Lance.
Yeah. You led the show.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I had to. So the next one I got for you. The Canes hoop squad will get to an Elite Eight again before the football team wins a national championship. All hyper sounds right.
Boy, that's a tough one, because winning a national title in the college football landscape the way it is today is going to be difficult, right? There's only 3 or 4 teams each year really that actually have a chance to win it. So I'll say that sounds right.
Okay. I just wanted to hear you say it. I was debating putting like winning the tournament, but I'm like, I don't think that's gonna happen. So I just wanted a Canes hoop win on that one. The last one I have for you is Lance Roffers can leg press over 1,000 pounds. All hyper sounds right.
Well, y'all can't tell. You can't check, so I'm going to say sounds right.
There we go. I like it.
He's doing leg press right now, man. Underneath.
Yeah, you just can't see it.
It's calf workout all the time, right?
It's calf workouts, man.
Let me ask you: do you have a specific workout regime for your calves? Seriously, I know we're joking around and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course I do.
Okay. Will you share that off camera? I know that might be some top secret info.
Yeah, I'll hook you guys up.
Okay, just don't tell anyone else from the OBB chat.
You know where that actually came from was I got plantar fasciitis, and my physical therapist gave me some calf workouts and things like that, and I've just been doing them for years. It stuck.
Oh wow!
Nice.
Okay,
all right.
I'm a big runner, and so I got plantar fasciitis one year, and it messed up my gait and all that. So I saw a therapist, and they got me hooked up with some calf workouts, and so the legend was born, right?
The legend was born. I love it. Oh man, yeah, man. I appreciate you doing this with us. Obviously, we're all just having a good time. I kind of want to get into some serious talk now. I know the first thing that I wanted to ask you about, I felt like it was a trending topic on Twitter. It was, what is a successful season for Miami in Mario Cristobal's first year? I feel like there's a lot of talk about we go 8-4. Is that really a good year? Is that looked at negatively? What do you kind of see as a successful season in Mario's first year?
Yeah, I kind of talked about the fact that we were texting and talking, before the show and everything. And I kind of shared that, every time I do one of these shows, right, that's a question that comes up. And my answer is pretty much always the same, right? It kind of depends, right? You'd set the over-under for a successful Miami season at 8.5 wins, right? So if they get 9-3, you're probably pretty happy. They go 8-4, you probably, crinkle your nose just a little bit, right? You almost have an expectation of that. Just based on the schedule, based on the fact that, we actually have a quarterback, based on the fact that, there's a new coach coming in that has a little bit of hope for us, based on the fact that maybe a couple of plays go different way last year, and you win 9 games last year, right? So, I kind of look at it as 8.5 is the over under for me. My expectation is to go 9-3, but I go a little bit deeper with that as well. I really want to see how they represent themselves in those big games, right? Because, maybe they go 9-3 and they just kind of show that they're getting pushed around by a Texas A&M and a Clemson, and that physicality that we've heard so much about just isn't showing up, right? That'd be a little disappointing for me, just based on the fact that, I've read and gone over his press conferences a couple of times, just to see what he says that he values, he being Coach Cristobal. And so that's something that I really want to see. I want to see that, that attention to detail, that relentless, competitors that they talked about, and really going up there and believing that they can win, even if they don't, right? I want to show that, Miami is back to being proud in those games, versus, not showing up in some of those things. And then I also want to see how they represent themselves coming off of buys, right? Where, maybe the last coaching staff kind of struggled getting the team to play with energy and passion, and squeaking out a win 16-14 or something like that over an App State. It counts as a win, right? But does it really feel like a win? And so I want to see some of those things start turning around and see some of that physicality that we've heard so much about. And getting back to, playing some of the style of football that we believe this program should.
Yeah. Let me ask you, what kind of immediate impact do you think the two new coordinators, Gaddis and Steele, can give this squad?
Yeah, so I think you're going to see a huge impact just from the simple fact that their schemes are going to be so much different than what we saw last year, right? The defensive coordinator last year, of course, was the head coach. Really, he called the plays basically and designed the defense, and he was responsible for all of those things. With Gaddis, you're going to see a large change from what Lashley ran, just because Lashley believed so much, his core principles so much was pace and space. So what that meant was, he really ran a simplified offense that you could get to the line of scrimmage, play fast, get to the next play. And a lot of his play calls were one-word play calls so that, your position groups could get to the line of scrimmage, be set, and they hear their one-word play call for themselves, and they know what that means as far as formation. They know what that means as far as adjustments go. They know what that means as far as what a play call is for that next play, because they wanted to get that play off within 15 seconds. Gaddis runs a very different scheme from that. He runs something that's very demanding for the wide receivers in particular, which is probably why you're hearing so much about, the emphasis on wide receivers in the early fall camp. And maybe some of the struggles are from that as well, particularly for the Z wide receiver position, right, which is going to be your field wide receiver. Oftentimes, they're going to be in motion. They're asked to run a lot of jet fly sweeps. They're lead blockers sometimes on off-tackle runs that Gaddis's offense ran last year. They run the clear-out routes on deep routes, which holds that field corner, which is the wide side of the field, right? They hold that corner out of an underneath zone so that those running back swing passes that we've seen Michigan do so often can open up. They also run choice and glance routes. And what that basically means is the wide receiver has to understand what the leverage of the defender is and what the defensive scheme is and where to go, and has to be on the same page with with the quarterback. So he's going to put a lot on his wide receivers that last year we just really didn't see. The expected Z wide receivers, Keyshawn Smith. That makes him a very important player in Gaddis' scheme. I mentioned pace and space for Coach Lashley, but with Coach Gaddis, he had much tighter splits than Lashley did. What that really means is for Lashley, he wanted to be able to touch both sidelines with the wide receivers a lot of times whenever he was going fast as well, which spread the defense out, pulled defenders out of the box, but also reduce the number of options over the middle of the field. So in Lashley's offense, we saw a mostly wide hash offense. Gaddis is just the opposite. He runs a lot of tighter splits. He really wants to attack the middle of the field. He wants to put defenders in a bind with his run scheme in particular, whereas Lashley wanted to put defenders in a bind with his passing concepts. So you really are going to have just a massive difference from what you saw last year. Lashley's offense was pretty successful, especially based on what we had prior to Coach Lashley coming here. So I'm not in any way disparaging what Lashley had, but you really are going to see quite a bit of differences. Lashley really relies on tight ends. He ran 12 personnel quite often. What that really means is one running back, two tight ends. A lot of times that tight end is going to get split out. He's going to be, essentially a glorified wide receiver, but he's also going to be off the hip of the tackle, both sides, left tackle and right tackle. And, he's going to be a lead blocker and run plays. They're going to run split zone sometimes. And they're also going to run him on wham blocks, which is essentially just coming across the line of scrimmage and either kicking out or pinning an edge defender that comes up the field. So you're gonna see quite a bit of difference. Where Lashley really wanted to run that inside zone as the staple of his run game, Gaddis really wants to run power. That's the staple of what Gaddis is going to do for his run game. And what that really means a lot of times is, you have a puller either from the guard spot or two pullers from the guard and the tackle spot where they come across the formation and then try to either kick out or drive block at the second level. So those are going to be some major differences that you see with Gaddis as far as the run game goes. With the passing game, a lot of Gaddis's concepts come from the McVay-Shanahan tree, believe it or not, where McVay, he loves weak side flood. That's one of his major passing concepts. If you watch Rams games, this route, is usually ran off of play action, many times with a boot. Tyler Van Dyke, he's going to be asked to do some things that are a little bit different than what he did in the Lashley offense, where he really wasn't on the move, throwing the ball on the move quite as much. In this Gaddis offense, that's going to happen. You're going to see that quite a bit. And whenever you're running a weak flood, either off play action or with a boot, what that does is that allows the quarterback to pick a wide receiver at each of the three levels. Generally, you're going to have crossing routes where you've got short, medium, and long. Sometimes you can have a backside clear out route as well on that. Downsides I saw on tape was a tendency to run a lot on first and second down. Whereas whenever Miami has a quarterback like TVD, you really want to maximize your efficiencies by allowing him to throw the ball in more, unpredictable situations, right? If you're only running the ball or only throwing the ball on third down, you become a little bit more predictable. That really does, kind of minimize your efficiencies a little bit. So that would be my concern, right? Almost anybody has some concerns whenever you look at their offense. That would be what I have for Gaddis. With Steele, again, you are really going to see some massive differences from what we ran under Coach Diaz. With Steele, you're going to see a lot more of those two-gap concepts. You're going to see pinch, contain concepts. What that really means is your ends, instead of flying up the field and trying to go around and run the arc against those tackles, they're going to really try and get into their chest and push them backwards and make the quarterback feel that condensed. What that does is that cuts down on that quarterback run game quite a bit as well, something that has hurt Miami a lot over the years, just from the fact that those edges lose contain. Another thing that you're going to see from Coach Steele is you're going to see individuals line up over offensive linemen. What that really means, anytime you're talking about where a defensive lineman lines up, they're going to call it technique. So you hear a lot about a 3 technique, a 5 technique, 7 technique, things like that. What that is that's just telling you where they're lined up, on the line of scrimmage. With Coach Diaz, he wanted to run upfield all the time, one gap. He basically wanted to beat your man, get into the backfield, and try and tackle a running back as you go, right? You really wanted to cause chaos. You wanted to get tackles for loss. You wanted to get sacks. You wanted to try and create turnovers. A lot of what Coach Diaz was doing was relying on the offense to make a mistake, right? You believe that if you get a 7-yard sack, you get them into 2nd and 17 or 3rd and 17, that you're going to be able to stop them and get off the field. It wasn't as sound from a schematic standpoint of gaps and things along those lines, right? So under Coach Steele, I do think you're going to see tackles for loss. I think you're going to see sacks. I think you're going to see pressures. I think all those things are probably going to decline, right? Those flashy numbers that you read from various sites, things like that. What he's going to do is he's going to run a lot more 5 techs, which are those 280 to 310 pound type defensive linemen that line up in the middle of the chest of the tackles and use them to control gaps and shut down run games and be a lot more gap sound. So I prefer the type of defense that Steele's going to run, but it will be, a little less flashy, a little less up the field than what we saw under Coach Diaz. I don't know if that answered your question or not, but that's kind of what I saw when I reviewed the tape.
Yeah, I'm excited to see a defense that's going to be fundamentally sound. That's not, like you said, it's not gonna lose contain. It's not gonna focus on just creating havoc, and hopefully it works. That's basically what it was. And we saw whenever the Manny Diaz defense didn't have a dominant defensive line, they got chewed up and spit out and carved up by random quarterbacks. And so
yeah, the big reason that you saw that so much was because of the fact that the middle of the field was wide open so often, because you had defensive linemen trying to scream up the field, right? And you had linebackers that had to cover so much space that they just really weren't able to do that. And so any kind of play action put a linebacker in such a bind where they had to play the run first, right? And then they had to try and recover into their zone drops. A linebacker has 2 responsibilities or 3 on every single play. And the Diaz scheme really put the linebackers in a tough spot. And then, the other side of that was they were so susceptible to traps and counters because of the fact that, the defensive linemen really just wanted to get upfield. And those, schemes where you trap or counter, that's what you want the defensive lineman to do, right? You want him to run upfield and take himself out of the play. And we saw that over and over and over whenever you would review the tape. So.
Yeah.
Okay. Lance, I was going to ask you kind of got into it during your initial answer. I wanted to specifically ask you about the wide receivers, because we had heard a lot of things coming out, and you even referenced that when you were talking, drop balls, that they weren't performing well. Is there, do you think that that's just kind of a learning curve? Or are you necessarily worried that maybe we don't have, last year we had Charleston Rambo, do we have another guy of that caliber, or someone that's close, Yeah,
so if you went and read, camp clippings and things like that from this time last year, they had the exact same question. Who's going to step up as a number 2 at that time, because we thought Mike Harley was really going to be the alpha receiver going into last year. But there were questions last year as well on who was going to be that second wide receiver. Was Rambo going to step up? Rambo had an okay camp. He did not have a great camp. And you may even remember that, Charleston Rambo didn't get going until about the 4th game of the year last year. So I'd say it's a little bit of both, right? I'd say that you're always worried when it hasn't happened yet, as if it's going to happen. I do believe that there's young talent on this team, but I don't see anyone that's going to have the same type of year that Charleston Rambo had last year, or even that Harley had. I think it's going to be more of a sum of the parts. And I think you're going to see a lot more emphasis on tight ends as well, because they are going to run 12 personnel a lot more than what we ran last year, where we ran a lot of 11 personnel, which is essentially 3 wide receivers, 1 running back, 1 tight end, versus 2 tight ends, 2 wide receivers, 1 running back. And so I think some of those differences are going to be made up through, more talent at tight end and better usage of the tight ends. But I also am not in love with hearing drops and wide receivers, maybe not working to the level that they should be working at, by the time they're a sophomore, junior in college.
Mm-hmm.
Let's touch on the first couple games of the season. What can you learn from a game against Bethune-Cookman and Southern Miss?
So it's not so much about the opponent in a game like that. I mean, unless you lose, of course, but it's not so much about the opponent as it is yourself, right? So you go back and you listen to Coach Cristobal and what he said and what he wants to bring to the program. So I'm interested, is Mario delivering on his promises of a change in culture? That's the biggest thing for me. I want to see on tape the change in culture that he's talking about. The opening press conference, he stressed over and over that it is about the work. And you can see from how the team looks, right? Physically, how do they look on the sidelines? How do they conduct themselves? Even against inferior teams, if the team has invested itself into the work in the offseason, right? And that speaks to your leader. Are they building that culture the way they say they're going to? Are their actions matching their words? I'm always big on, understanding what the person has said and then watching the tape to see if those actions match up with the words that they've brought into the world, right? I didn't speak them, they spoke them. Coach Cristobal indicated that this will be a program of relentless competitors. poor Jalar Hawley, his biggest contribution to the program is going to be him being the poster child for, doing his motorcycle celebration against FIU when the Hurricanes were experiencing that embarrassing loss. They were trailing 13-0 at the time when he's doing those things. To me, that's illustrative of what has happened with Miami, who were not relentless competitors during the Diaz era. They were front runners during the Diaz era. If things were going good, they were doing okay. But if there was any kind of adversity, they kind of checked out, and they certainly didn't demonstrate to me what relentless competitors look like on tape. Teammates even defended Hawley after that, as saying that they took FIU lightly and that they needed some energy, and that this true freshman who wasn't playing was bringing them energy. And somehow they couldn't do that for themselves. Well, does Miami need energy to show up and play against teams they should beat? Something that Cristobal has said they're not going to need, right? They're going to be relentless competitors. Well, a relentless competitor for themselves shows it. And finally, physicality. Coach Cristobal has routinely talked about physicality since he came to Miami, and I want to see it. Is that the truth in how the team plays this year? And you can see that immediately. And you should see that against a Bethune, right? You should see that more against a Bethune than you would against a Texas A&M. And I want to see that immediately. I'll watch the film. I'll see if they're demonstrating the fundamentals, coaches preaching in videos and practice clips. Do our offensive line get to the front of the defensive lineman's shoulder? Do they get their foot in the midline? Do they get their chest and use off-arm power under the defender's armpits? I'll see all those things on film, right, to see if they're doing the techniques that they're taught. But what I really want to see more than anything is, are they showing that physicality taking on those blocks? Are they showing the physicality when they tackle? How many times last year did we see people, kind of shoulder tackling and just trying to ram somebody? That's not tough. That's not physical. And football's a game of physicality, and I want to see that. And then the last thing I want to see is a disciplined unit that doesn't beat themselves. Penalties are penalties regardless of the opponent talent level. So it doesn't matter if it's Bethune-Cookman or if it's Texas A&M or Clemson, jumping off sides, false starts, hurting yourself, with penalty flags. Those are things that I'll be watching for.
Let me ask you, Lance. So just from this perspective, obviously these aren't probably going to be competitive games, or they shouldn't be, these first two games at least. Is there any young guy that you're looking forward to seeing, maybe a freshman, a true freshman or something, hit the field, or anyone else that maybe wouldn't get an opportunity normally?
Yeah, that's one of those things where all of them is the easy answer, right? I'm excited to see everybody that's new because I haven't seen them before. I haven't seen them before on tape, right, at Miami. I've seen them in high school or maybe as a transfer, but I haven't seen them, in orange and green. So I'm excited for everybody, but a lot goes into that question because a true freshman, do they have the requisite size to play? Do they play a position that has tons of depth? So, maybe they wouldn't get on the field, but it's not because of their talent, but they have 5 guys in front of them who are upperclassmen. So some of those things. And then generally, if you're going to play as a true freshman, you're playing a niche role or just a special talent, right? So offensive linemen, defensive tackles, they don't play a lot as true freshmen. But for this year's group, you do have a couple of players who stand out to me. Nigel Kelly, he's a player that I personally, put right on par with the Shamar Stewarts of the world last year and believed that he was a special talent. So I want to see that. I want to see, is he a special talent when he gets a chance out there? Can he fill a pass rusher role? And as the year goes along, can he, get real snaps against actual opponents? And they'll start in this game here. Jaleel Skinner, we've all heard a lot about him. I want to see that translate to the field. When I watched him, he looked like a wide receiver on tape, 205, 210. They say he's 230 now and playing physical. So I want to see that. I want to see that on tape with Skinner because he's going to play. He's going to play a lot this year. He basically has to if they're going to play as much 12 personnel as they want to, just due to the fact that, people get fatigued. So they're going to come on and out, and he's going to have to play that number 2 tight end role quite a bit this year. And finally, Wesley Vicente, he plays a position that we all have talked about a lot as Canes fans at linebacker. We want to see, the next All-American there. And for me, he's got a chance. And I want to see that on tape. I want to see what he looks like. If we do have some offensive linemen that get out there, I'm real excited to see Inez Cooper. I've heard great things about him, and he's one of those tape wins. He's one of those people that when you watched him, you saw his ranking as a 3-star or even a low 3-star on some places. And it didn't marry with the film. I saw an individual that moved extremely well for someone pushing 400 pounds in high school and had natural power with very little technique. So I want to see, after a full camp with Coach Mirabal and Coach Cristobal, what he looks like on the film, because I think he's got a chance to be a player in the future, and he may be someone that you kind of stole, at the last minute there after he came in. And last year, when I was watching the film, I made a comment that it wouldn't shock me if Chris Graves started as a true freshman. I was that high on Chris Graves at the cornerback position. He came in a little bit later, had an injury, so set him back just a little bit, not going to start this year, for some of those things. But I really want to see him on film to see that movement against the team that he should, be able to compete with right away. So those would be the guys that I'm looking for.
Okay.
Yeah, Graves
we
was the guy I was
also
going to ask you about.
we also got a watcher. We got a watcher question, Tony, that I wanted to get to before your next question. From Scott Butler. If you could take one player from the Golden Era and put them on this current roster, who and why?
There were some good players from Coach Golden. He really did a pretty decent job of evaluating talent at certain positions. But for me, it was a player that he didn't do so great with, and that would be Chickalo. I think Anthony Chickalo on this team, used in the way that I personally would have used him, and in this Coach Steele defense where he's got versatility to play on the edge, he's got versatility to slide inside, super athletic. I think a kid like that could really make this defense elite, and that would have been the person that I'd love to drop into this defense. Awesome.
Sorry, Tony, go ahead.
I forgot what I was saying. It wasn't important. my guy for Scott's question would probably be like Denzel Perriman or something. Throw him in the middle as defense. It'd be pretty.
Yeah,
pretty
Amon Richards would look pretty good on this team too.
Yeah,
if he was healthy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there
That's
you go.
a good answer as well.
Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah, so I was talking about Graves. Like, we've heard so much of his talent level coming into college. So I'm pretty excited to see if he's going to get some playing time against Bethune, and see what he looks like on the field.
Absolutely.
Your commenters, they think they got jokes, right? My fan is not running that fast. It's an optical illusion because of your refresh rate on your monitor, Scott.
Yeah, Scott, what are you doing? I want to ask you, specifically, we talked about it a little bit, in terms of the running back depth. How much of a concern? How concerned are you? How much of a concern should there be? I know we just picked up a transfer today from UAB. I don't know that much about him, but just going forward. Do you think that there's a change in game plan because, the amount of running backs that we have now, or how do you feel?
So on the surface, you hear about 3 scholarship healthy backs, and that's a little worrisome for a team that wants to run the ball quite, as much as Coach Cristobal wants to, and some of those things. And then I started looking at the Alabamas, the Ohio States, and teams of that ilk. For the most part, those teams have 4 scholarship running backs, right? So that does help ease some of your fears a little bit. You don't want to see any more injuries at the spot, but you can really get 4 running backs throughout a season and be just fine. They say Chaney's going to be back later in the season. That'll give you your 4th. The kid who committed, he's got a little bit of talent. He comes from a decent program, got a little bit of size on him. He runs with power. I think he will fill a depth role. You've got a couple of walk-ons who are not bad players, right? They could be scholarship players at lower level schools. So I think you're going to be okay from a practice standpoint, because that's really where it hurts you more, is in practice, because you don't want to run Knighton in practice after he gets 25 carries in a game, right? So he's probably not going to play for you. So now you are going to be more reliant on those walk-on players and maybe some of those lower depth chart players to give you a look in practice, because that scout team is preparing your first team defense and doing things along those lines. So that's really where it's going to come into play. I think the kid that, committed recently, I think he is going to help for those reasons. Yeah.
Yeah, they had that walk on. I think it was Devon Perry from the spring game. He looked fast, at least.
Yeah, it's interesting that they
talent,
list him as a wide receiver on the roster, but he's playing running back most of the time, right? And I thought he looked like a kid who could play at the FCS level at the least.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. You mentioned that you think Skinner's going to get a lot of burn. Is he the guy you think is going to get the most snaps as the 2021 recruit coming in as a true freshman?
That's what it looks like right now, based on the fact that they're going to play so much 12 personnel, and there are times that you have 3 tight ends out there. Based on what I saw on Michigan's film, anyway, you don't know exactly what Coach Gaddis is going to do just because of the quarterback differences from the 2 programs. But I did see even some 13 personnel, so I think Skinner's probably going to play the most out of the freshmen. I think if you'd asked me this question a month ago, it might have been Citizen, just based on the fact that he really was progressing quickly and picking things up and looked like a kid that could start the second half of the season. But I would probably still go with Skinner based on the scheme that we're going to run and some of the depth that we have at different positions.
I'm sorry.
I would agree.
I keep reading the comments and I'm dying. Tony, I gotta ask you though, real quick: is it true that you have croquetas with ketchup, or is Zach BSing here?
He's
okay.
BSing. He's BSing.
I really
I was about to say, man.
I need to hide the comments because I can see everybody
BSing.
trolling us.
Yeah,
and
he thinks
that's where I'm
he's
getting
funny.
some of the chuckles from. So.
He thinks he's funny.
Whatever. Let me ask you though, Lance. I've totally lost my train of thought, but like,
Thanks, Zach.
First 2 games, thanks, Zach. These first 2 games, like I remember back a few years back, the App State game, the playbook was kind of a little vanilla. People were kind of worried about, what the offense was going to look like. Do you think that we're going to have that kind of same feel this season,
Yes, absolutely. Okay. We play Texas A&M the third game of the season, where they're absolutely going to be pretty vanilla. They're going to run a lot of power. They're going to run a lot of pin and pull run. They're going to run out of pistol. They're going to run a lot of 4 verts as far as the passing game goes. They're going to swing passes to the running back quite a bit, and people are going to probably be a little concerned about where's the creativity and some of those things. And most likely you're not going to need to get too creative to beat those teams. And also you got to remember, we're trying to establish a culture here of physicality, and what that's probably going to mean is a lot of those run plays, a lot of traps, a lot of pin and pulls, a lot of counters, and just establishing that power game that they want to run, and that may be a little boring first couple of games.
Mm-hmm. We got another watcher question as well. Let's see, from Matt Steersman. What are you looking forward to next Saturday? Obviously, we're going to overmatch in each position. Well, hopefully. How do you evaluate the performance?
Yeah, so it's not so much about your opponent whenever you're watching, a 55-3 type game. You really are watching a lot of the in-between plays as well. Like how do players conduct themselves? How do they act as a teammate? Are you doing the things that your coaches say you should be doing? Things along those lines. And also I want to have a little bit of fun too, right? I want to see players that I haven't watched before. And I want to see some of the new guys get in the second half. And really, that's the only thing that keeps my attention in some of those games, right? Is getting a chance to see some of the freshmen that I may only see 1 or 2 games this year. So, and plus it's Miami Hurricanes football. How can you not be excited about that, right? I mean, we're all diehard fans, or we wouldn't be here right now. We wouldn't be chatting or asking questions or talking about it on YouTube. And so that's another thing I just get another opportunity to watch my Canes play. So I'm excited about that.
Yep.
Absolutely.
You mentioned 9-3. That's also where I have them. What are your losses?
Yeah, I think we're probably gonna lose the Texas A&M game. Probably gonna lose the Clemson game. This is regular season because if you win the Coastal, you'll get another game, and then you got your bowl games, of course, too. But regular season, I do have them finishing 9-3. That's my expectation. You're probably gonna lose one of those games to Virginia, North Carolina, Pitt, just based on variance. One of those games where the ball doesn't bounce your way. Maybe you have some poor turnover luck. Maybe. The other team gets some penalty luck, so things along those lines. And one of those is probably going to end in a loss. If you live in a probability world, the way my data dork brain does. I just run percentages so often and think, okay, well, 65%, 65%, 65%. You probably shouldn't expect 3-0, if you've got 65% type games that you're expected to win. And so that's kind of where I lean. I hope not, right? I hope we go 11-1 and find a way to really prove that the program's on the right track. But I also try and temper myself. Just some of the data dorkdom comes across with those things.
Yeah, those two road games in the state of Virginia really scare me. I don't see us winning both of them for some reason, because playing in Blacksburg has always been a thorn in our side. And then, Charlottesville, that'll probably be a night game depending on where both teams' records stand. That ACC network, 7 p.m. primetime game. And I'm not ready to trust this team in a primetime road game at night yet until I see it. They've scarred me so much. Yeah.
Ask yourself, does Miami have more talent? Does Miami have more talent than those opponents? And if the answer is yes, your expectation should be that we're going to win those games. If you're going to pay Coach Cristobal what you're paying him, if you're going to make the investment that you're making, if you're going to believe in the talent of these players, and you've got a first-round quarterback, you should win those games.
Yeah. Virginia for me is the wild card.
They've got a great quarterback. They've got a great college quarterback, and that's why I put them on the list, right? And Pitt, they've got a really good coach who I believe is going to be able to scheme some things that gives Miami's offense some trouble in that game. In North Carolina, just because we haven't proven that we can beat that team on the regular yet. So all three of those games are games that are kind of toss-ups to me. Again, I put those in that 65% type win area. Virginia Tech's probably in that probability as well. But we'll see what happens. If you do end up 8-4, I won't lie, I'll be a little disappointed in that.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. I know the Virginia game worries me. I know that QB is funky looking. He's kind of geeky looking. He's the one that looks like Napoleon Dynamite, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Dude can sling it though. I'm worried about that game as well. I'm on the 9-3 train as well. I know there's some people that are a little more, delusional, I would say, with the 10-2. But I don't know. I don't see it. I think it's more likely that we go 8-4 than 10-2, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, fans have been calling for 10-2 for 10 years. Every time this is the year that these things are going to happen, and chances are it's not. That's difficult to do, and the ACC may not have, especially on the coastal side, they may not have elite talent. But I respect the coaches that they have. What they put on film, they tend to put some cool stuff on film. They tend to put solid schemes out there, which especially on the road can make things difficult just because of what I talked about with the variance, right? Where you get a few poor breaks and things end up not going your way, and late, you need something 50-50 in some of these games to go 11-1 and 10-2 and 12-0 and some of those things. Even in those great teams that Miami had, there was always a game, usually on the road every year, where things were close. They were tight. We all are probably immediately thinking of the Boston College game, in 2001, and one of the best teams ever. Was very close to losing that game, and they got a play to go their way off of a bounce. Right, that ball could have just as easily bounced into Boston College's hands on that play, and then they're inside the 10, and who knows what happens in that game at that point. So it wasn't so much an elite play on the interception as it was you got a great bounce.
Yeah.
Sometimes
let me ask you, Lance.
That's what you need. Yeah.
The last question that I have for you, I want to ask you about the safeties. In terms of, I think that every fan wants to see them all on the field at the same time if possible. How can that happen if it can happen?
Oh, yeah, there are lots of ways to play three safeties in modern college football, right? In fact, you see great defenses going that direction, where you have something called big nickel. You have a third safety on the field where you can still run your two safeties high. You drop a third down as your nickel corner, right? And that can be your what we call your big nickel. You can also have your overhang defender be a safety, and what that overhang is he's playing curl flat, right? He's playing curl flat off of a passing game, and he's filling the run lane. So whichever gap he's got, whether he's got B or whether he's got edge, most of the time he's going to be your force player on the edge. And so that's something that you think of from Clemson. A lot of those teams, that was not a safety position. Really, that was a small linebacker that they dropped down into the overhang. And that's really all they asked him to do was be a playmaker in that overhang field, which is a perfect place for James Williams, right? That to put him in the role that you see a lot of those Clemson defenders that go into the league. And there was one a couple of years ago, his name's kind of escaping me at the moment. And
Isaiah Simmons.
There you go. So Simmons, if you think of the way that Clemson used him, he did not line up as a free safety, strong safety very often. He was not a single high guy, which really what that means is, middle of the field, only one safety, the other one drops down. Another thing that you're seeing defenses do is they're attacking those jet sweeps and those fly sweeps and those orbit motions by they curl into single high, they drop their second safety down, into the box. Well, if you have a third safety and as your overhang, he can really just play a linebacker position for you. You also have that striker position that everyone kind of talks about, right? Where that can really just be a safety. You could put James Williams in that role and he would be great at that. You could put Cam Kitchens in that role and he would be great at that, to where, his responsibility is the number 2 receiver if he goes into the flats, the number 3 receiver if he curls. And so those are things that you see lots of times with defenses, especially against spread offenses. You're probably not going to see it against, a box offense or a Big Ten type offense that runs a lot of 12 or 13 personnel. But the spread teams that we play, you'll absolutely see 3 safeties on the field quite a bit.
Okay. Tony, did you have anything else before we get into
Reddit?
I
got one more.
Okay.
You have to pick one, Lance. Which one do you think we have a better chance of winning, at A&M or at Clemson?
Yeah, I think it's at A&M. I think A&M is very talented, but they've got some youth on the line, especially on the defensive line. They've got some unproven players there, highly athletic, but experience really matters on the lines. I think at quarterback they're certainly not there. Clemson's got their own questions at quarterback, of course, but I just respect what they have on the lines with Clemson a lot more than what I do with Texas A&M as far as experience goes. And when you're a team like Miami that wants to win the lines on both sides, I think Clemson is a very poor matchup. I don't think we're going to win either one, frankly, but I think Clemson is a very poor matchup for what Miami wants to do and where they are currently.
I would agree. I think there's something to playing A&M early in the year also. And by November, Clemson's found their groove and,
Maybe so, though, but we think we've got a great coach too, and so the same goes for us. And you've got so many transfers that you're trying to indoctrinate into the rotation. That's going to take some time also, and I think by the end of the year you could see Miami playing very good football, and maybe they surprise and really play Clemson tough. I just think the better chance of winning the game based on the talent that I see in the key spots that I believe win games is more against Texas A&M than it is against Clemson.
Sweet. All right, I'm done.
All right, boys. So Lance, to end the show, we do it's like a random Reddit topic. This whole thing started, I think I just randomly found like a list of Reddit topics or questions or whatever and just printed a bunch out without looking at them, just cut them up and put them in this Miami Hurricanes mug over here, or cup. So we are going to pick a random one. Hopefully it's nothing crazy that the comments are going to grill us for. Okay, it's a pretty tame one. Would you rather have the ability to instantly wash your dishes or the ability to instantly fold your clothes?
Oh,
Yeah, that's a
wash
tough
dishes
one, right?
100%.
I've got to use my personal experiences at home on this one, right? Because my wife and I, we really try and be a partnership, right? And she hates doing dishes. She hates it. So I do all the dishes, right? And vice versa. I hate folding laundry. So she folds all the laundry and she puts it away. So in this case, it'd be great for me to have something that magically does my dishes because I don't fold the laundry. So I'm going to go that way.
Okay. What about you, Tony?
Mine is dishes 100%. I find folding laundry therapeutic, especially during football season, where I'll just throw on the Sunday night football game and just sit there, fold laundry for an hour, watch football. It's kind of a routine that I have, and I hate doing
Tony
dishes
drinks
too.
his cranberry juice and watches his football, right?
Yeah, that's it. That's it. Sunday nights.
I'm kind of the opposite, man. Honestly, I actually think I like washing dishes. Like I can kind of like zone out. I don't know. It's kind of therapeutic to me. I don't know why. I hate anything to do with laundry. Anything to do with it. I will literally buy new clothes so I don't have to do laundry.
That's a stretch.
I would I would definitely go. I mean, dude, if I was wealthy and I was getting free clothes and stuff, I would never do laundry. I forget who it was. There's some celebrity that said, I get boxers all the time. Like I don't even wear the same ones twice, So that's my answer. Gotta say,
Nice.
I'm kind of disappointed. Should we do another one?
Whatever.
What do you think? Let's do one more. I want a good one for Lance. But like, okay, here we go. This one's decent. Instead of gasoline, what do you wish cars ran on?
Oh gosh, I mean, something free, right? Something that's readily available and free. My science mind, doesn't want to like pick water because so many areas are distressed for water as it is, right? And maybe something like sand, right? That has readily available in places that don't have water and you maybe don't have resources. So it's something that's good for everybody.
I was gonna say what Scott said, which was garbage. I think that's a good one.
That'd be, yeah, like recycled material. That'd be kind of cool.
That'd be cool. I would take that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other answer, Tony?
I would do like water, but like rainwater. So you build like some contraption in front of your house that catches the rainwater. You repurpose it for your car. It'd be kind of cool. I was watching some HGTV show the other day, and people were using the water to, they're living out like off the grid, and they have to use the rainwater to wash all their shit. That's got my FSU lost.
I drive an electric car, so.
Oh, well, nice. I'll get there.
You go. Yeah, maybe one day I will. Well, Lance, hey man, we really appreciate you coming on. Hopefully you had a good time with us.
Oh yeah, it was a great time. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, we'd love to have you come on again at some point. But yeah, that being said, what about score predictions? What do you guys think for this game? I know it's not very, newsworthy. Essentially, probably a lopsided victory. But what do you guys think?
I'd say 45-3.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm thinking more in the 50s.
Okay.
It also depends on how long TVD will be out there, and the starting ones will be out there.
I'm excited to see Garcia. Aren't you guys excited to see Garcia get out there and get some time?
Yeah,
dude,
for sure.
That's my boy, another California Cane. That's my guy. I'm absolutely excited to see him get out there and get some burn.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, guys, appreciate you guys both coming up. You guys both doing the show. I don't know why I'm talking to Tony like he's a guest. It was a good time. Finally, Canes football is back. I guess there's only one thing left to say, and that's go Canes.
Go Canes, man.
Go Canes, fellas. Take care.
Take care, guys.